So a really easy way to get plants is just kind of by looking around in your neighborhood to see who's growing what and if you can take cuttings of anything. Ralph and I were walking around at night and stumbled upon some cranberry hibiscus that had been cut down, and we were like, we can make cuttings out of these. So we got all of these cuttings just from like 1 or 2 branches that were cut down, and now we're going to have all of these plants.
To really utilize space efficiently living in a city, you need to get every square inch used, you know, and in food forestry, that includes the vertical layer. And so that's one element. You're using that vertical space. 2, when you inoculate the seeds by getting them damp, putting some inoculant on them, and you plant them, then you're fixing nitrogen into the soil. And then when they're done, not only do I get peas, not only do I get a richer soil, not only have I utilized that space, look at this, to throw down, and just to let nature have its way, let the natural processes work.
So this is a zola. It's an aquatic fern. It just floats on the surface. It has a symbiotic relationship with a algae that fixes nitrogen. And then it grows incredibly fast. It just divides clonally. And then once it totally covers the surface, you can just use this as like a mulch. It's really high in nitrogen, so you just scoop this up, throw it on your beds, and it rots down really rapidly, releasing the nitrogen to the plants, just like a fertilizer.
You know exactly if you're doing something right or wrong because it works or it fails right in front of you. So it is a constant learning experience, and it doesn't even feel like learning. It feels like playing. You know, I don't have to memorize anything. It almost becomes intrinsic or something.
The neem tree is very, very important as a medicine. It's really healthy for teeth. As a natural insecticide, and lucky us, like a lot of plants, it grows really, really well here.
This is coral vine. It's a really nice nectary plant, but it also produces a tuber. It's kind of like yakan. You can eat it raw. It's kind of a sweet, crunchy tuber. I'm growing it in a pot because every time I've tried to grow it in the ground, the tuber is like so far down in the ground, I've never been able to get it, so seeing what happens when I grow it in a pot.
It's reusable, washable, and they're super strong because it's that woven plastic. It's just pretty big.
That's the hive that I was working yesterday, so we'll probably leave those guys alone, and we'll go over here and look at these guys. They're still not happy with me.
So this is the backyard, not really used for production, but just for propagation. I don't come down here often enough to water everything, so I have these kind of automatic watering things that just underbed storage bin, piece of polyester fleece that has a little tongue that goes in the water, pulls it up, distributes the water on the top, and then these all get water. So these are just cuttings. Nice thing about these, it just gives just enough water so they don't drown. So you can just fill these with dirt, set them on the tray, and then stick them in, and they root pretty rapidly, at least in the summertime.
This is an experiment. I really don't know how well this is going to do here, but by experimenting, you might just find the best relative of a plant available. You might find one that's way better than what we call standard. This one grows smaller fruit. Its home base is up in the Andes, so hence the name mountain papaya, and it's much more cold hardy than the regular papaya. So I'm hoping here that it grows really, really well, and I might even experiment with using it as a rootstock so that I can graft, say, the ones of the flavors that I prefer onto this cold hardy rootstock, and see if it works.
The anarchism, our version, our activism ran into a dead end because we were talking about like, you know, social change and, you know, creating community empowerment, and we just didn't find a way to actualize that. You know, it was always just talk, petting each other's egos of like change this, everything sucks. And then like this guy picked up a magazine, Urban Gardener magazine.
Yeah.
That had an article on permaculture about like a year ago now, and talking about like how plants cooperated rather than like, you know, competed. These things avoided competition in order to perpetuate themselves and mutually benefit each other. And I was like, you know what, that sounds very similar to anarchism, because these people like are trying to avoid competition, institutionalized competition anyway, and they would cooperate to, you know, to benefit individually. So I just made this link, and then like it led, you know, it gave me a way to practically implement what I sought, which was free autonomous actors living in the same community, which is what I think permaculture is all about, is having these free autonomous actors or plants communicating, cooperating together to create a better whole. So I don't know, it was just a way to enact change that was like realized at the same time it was like enacted. You know, you learn from your mistakes as you progress. So there's no I'm kind of running into a rhetorical dead end here, but there's no way not to learn from it, because you learn your mistakes as you're trying it out, and you know what works, what doesn't work as you try it out. And it's about diving in, it's about experimenting and figuring it out as you go, you know.
I realized that they took the freedom away from us, and a man without freedom is nobody. Freedom is the most important thing you got in life.